Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching in the world. My name is Shaun Driver. This is the Red Horde and another episode of The Hot Stove, the second one. And this time, two bearded guys. This will be the most bearded podcast that Wrexham AFC has ever had. At least there's no annoying hold music. Hey, we live and we learn as we go through these tech issues. So Rousey and Adrian at Two Beards Media. You should be able to watch it with them. You could be potentially watching it with me, wherever you want to watch it. Hit the subscribe button on both channels and do it all up. I'm going to not waste any time and just bring them straight in. And we're going to talk all things Gillingham and Wrexham and how we got involved and just get into it. So click. Adrian Rousey early in the morning for you.
Yo,
How's things going? And glad to have you here.
G'day.
Yeah, good to
What's
be here,
going on?
It was a weird one. You guys probably, I think, went to bed. You know, you would have to be up late at night, went to bed early. You probably missed a lot of the action and stuff that happened last night. But what was your take on the Gillingham performance?
Yeah, it was good, man. It was good. I mean, we stayed up. I mean, Rousey is based in Perth. I'm based in Adelaide. So game finished at, not an unreasonable hour, but still worth it in the end. And I think, when we play the commanding game that we did, it's worth it. You know what I mean? Like, Rousey talks about it a lot, sucks when you stay up and you're like, fuck, like we're not gonna get the result. But that was the first time I wasn't really stressed. So it was actually a really enjoyable evening.
Very commanding performance, that's for sure. They put them to the sword very early and just held on, and then obviously scored another from Tozer, which was surprising to see. What a game, though. What a game. They just absolutely punished them, and they didn't. I mean, they had a few opportunities, but they never really looked like they had any hope of converting.
I think it was just that Hayden penalty was really the only chance where I was like, ooh, that could have got ugly.
Right. It's about time a handball decision went our way.
Yeah, Cryptic, thanks for stopping by. We got a bold. Appreciate it anyway. No, it was I like you guys felt in control the entire time, but it felt odd. Like the whole time I was doing the watch party, I was waiting for the crescendo, the build, the something to happen, and it was just like, no, we're measured, we got like I there was no panic. The heart rate was kept down on the meter the entire day, and I don't know really how to live my life when that happens with Wrexham. I don't know if that, yeah, the same.
It's a weird position to be in, isn't it? Like we're just so used to these, heart stoppers and late winners. And for us to do something, what we probably should have done. It's not that it was unexpected. It's just we're Wrexham and we're used to it. So it's like, so for us to have a nice win. And it was great to see Hayden back in. But also just to see Mendy rise to the occasion as well, because we obviously didn't have McLean to do crosses in as well as he can, and Mendy, I don't know, had one of the better games this season, I think.
Well, I think that goal that Tozer got, I think the interplay between Evans and Mendy was maybe the best build up to a goal that we've had all year, and maybe since I've started watching them live, like through the streams, is because it was back and forth, and I went, okay, Evans is going to go back to him one more time, and then it wasn't. It was that cheeky little split through the middle right to Mendy around the corner, and I was just like, oh my god, this was like you Harlem Globetrotter played them the entire time. I was like, this was great.
The way we played last night was, I think, stepping up another level. Their one touch that Wrexham were playing was just phenomenal. Like, you never see a League Two side playing that style of football. Like, it's just their one touch, and the passing was accurate. Like, you just really couldn't fault that game. It was just fucking nuts, mental, and the ref was good for once. So I don't have to swear at the ref and call him a fucking knob jockey or something.
You know what it was is he let them play early and so flop all over the place, right? Like if you know you're not going to get calls for flopping, you don't flop. But I got a question from John right off the stop that says, are we going to have an Aussie enthusiasm meter? And if we are, what's the over-unders on the drops?
Yeah. Sorry. Like, I honestly, I was literally, as Rousey was swearing, I was like, what's the rules on here? How many? Is it something that's okay? What's the
I'm
go?
good with it. There are no rules as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
try to
So
watch
Adrian,
my P's
mate,
and Q's, I was
Adrian,
saying,
you are
just
free
because
to
of what I
jump
have to
below
do.
the desk and suck my dick.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there it is. There he goes. There he goes. It is funny because
You-
the thing is, at least with my swearing, I like to think it's contextual. Whereas Rousey just tries to pull shit out of his ass, and he just like, oh, I'm gonna swear, but I'm not gonna have anything to do with what we're talking about. So he just goes off the fucking chain. So
Yeah,
anyway,
you guys be you, and it's probably a good segue. If, be you, do you. As far as you guys falling in love with Wrexham, deciding to end up doing Two Beards Media, how did that all come about? And let's set that up as the context, and then we'll try to get back into the Wrexham season after that.
Adrian tells this story the best, so
Okay, go for it.
oh look, he. I make the joke that he slid into my DMs, and I'd no look, I'd started
I sent
when the
him nudes.
takeover happened. Yeah, he did. He sent me nudes and feet pics and all this other jazz. But that was the selling point. But what really got me into it was, we were able to. I got to see what happened when the takeover happened, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like that, Ryan and Robert taking over a team. Didn't really get to hear much about it in Aussie media until the doco came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when it truly kind of opened the eyes and to our hearts really. And I obviously started Oz Wrexham like Twitter account, because I thought I would be the only Aussie, but lo and behold, definitely not. And there'd been people doing it for 30, 40 years before me. So it was pretty good to do. And then all of a sudden, Rousey jumps in, and about a year later, sends me a DM saying, "Hey mate, want to do a podcast?" And I was pretty apprehensive. Would you reckon?
I don't know. It was a little bit of discussion about what the plan was and how the podcast would be, but well, yeah, it was all right.
Starkey
drops in.
Hey.
Love that, man.
Now the swear meter can go off the charts, right?
But look,
So did you guys know each other before? Sorry.
Hey, one of the fuckheads is here. Yes.
Good pick. I feel so bad. Like, I think the best part about it is, we've never met before in person. He's in Perth, I'm in Adelaide, and we've never met before. It was just purely a remote thing, and that's how we do the podcast, is purely remote. So still yet to meet him in person, but I'm sure we'll have a couple of beers, embrace, and who knows. I'm sure some group feet pics or some shit,
Well, if you want to meet in person, the best place to do it is in Wrexham, and you can make the documentary yourself.
That is
It
the
can be a
plan.
whole Expedia
That
commercial
is the
with the Sappy moment where you guys can embrace in the Manchester airport before you head down on the train.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that, but like really
I kind of remember
over the top.
I remember the whole story differently to what Adrian just described, because I was, out on the street, down on my luck, trying to earn money for crack, and Adrian come along and knight in shining armor picked me up and put me on his back, carried me home and set me up and said, "Mate, we're doing a pod." Nah. That's
odds.
Fuck me dead.
Start a GoFundMe.
Start a GoFundMe. Oh my lord, yeah. I mean, when we do meet, we've already decided that it's just going to be, we've already broken the barrier in the sense that, we can pretty much say anything to each other. We're almost, well, I'd like to think we're brothers. So, I don't think there's anything really different that would happen if we did meet.
just a lot of drinking and a lot of hilarity, and probably me trying to con Adrian into doing some funny shit that entertains me, but no one else.
So did you guys then start the process of watching or trying to watch Wrexham before the streaming, and like as part of, I guess, 2 seasons ago? Was it the right after Rob and Ryan took over, or was there a build up? Because for me, I picked up halfway through the documentary, so the first season had wrapped up. Right, I was a last season joiner, I guess. So you're an older vintage than me as far as plastic new fans go.
Yeah. I mean, well, I know myself, I was the same, but I kind of joined in after the Coventry game, paid attention to Wrexham before that. They were a very interesting team and got into it through the doco. And then obviously the Coventry game just completely switched me. So, and then I think it was about 5 months after that game, me and Adrian decided to start the pod.
Yeah.
That's
Like
good
I
stuff.
think
I
for
love it.
me, for me it was just I'd started a little earlier only because as soon as the doco came out, a mate of mine, Nathan, and he always makes a mention of it to me. He goes, I got you started on this, right? Because the minute the first episode came out, he's like, bro, the team, Wrexham, the team that Rob Ryan, took over, they're on, Disney now. Like, we got to watch it. And yeah, I did, and obviously fell in love through that. And then this was pre-National League TV as well. So, like, there was that weird in-between times where you would just listen to Mark,
Yeah.
and the game. And then I think my first visual, if that makes sense, first visual watch party, I guess, was the York City game where we were up 1-0, I think, most of the game, and then they drew in like the 89th minute.
Yeah.
And it ruined my entire weekend. And I always say that was the moment I knew I was a Wrexham fan because it affected my life.
Yeah. It's like the drug has begun. No, it was frustrating because trying to get onto the streaming, all that sort of stuff, and the battle that was going on. I actually, I don't know if you guys know this. It's confidential. I promised my confidentiality I wouldn't talk about it, but I actually got into a long, like hour-long conversation with the commissioner of the National League prior to the streams that came out about international fans and why it could be important. I wrote a really long, like I do as a lawyer, wrote an obnoxious letter with some platitudes and some grievances, and I ended up getting a message back, and we had a really great conversation. So I don't think I influenced it enough. It would have happened anyway.
You did it. You did it.
Yeah,
I'll take
that. No, I don't think I have that sort of pull.
Bro,
But,
that's amazing. How did you? So what? Now I'm interviewing you now, but like, how did you get into doing that? Like, what made you do it? Were you just like, fuck this? I can't not watch. Like, what was your go?
I'm cursed with the sin that things that don't make sense to me, I need to end up challenging the shit that doesn't make sense to me. And not having streaming is something that didn't make any sense to me. And it was Rob and Ryan, or Rob's tweets came out and was talking about streaming. And I was like, why don't we have streaming? Like, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who could potentially be lining up for this. And you're chasing this away, and it didn't make any sense to me. So I went, okay, let's dumb this down and try to put my black hat on. If I'm the National League or I'm against streaming, what's my issue? And started to find some evidence and some things that I didn't want to just be a rant. I wanted it to be like substance. So I sent a letter off and got a phone call back, and I thought it was a prank. Like, how you get the email and it's like, National League Commissioner, we would like to talk to you. And I was like, yeah, get stuff. This isn't happening. And then I was like, why would they email me? So we had to chat.
I've never quite understood like what their issue is with streaming and vlogging from the ground or anything like that, because like you want to take advantage of that type of audience. I mean, and it's a wholesome, good stream. I mean, the normal live streams I'm used to watching normally involve some girl doing something funny with a bottle,
a credit card.
Yeah,
Jesus
exactly. Or a ping pong ball or something like that. And if you can live stream that, you should be able to live stream a football game. I mean,
you know what? Underlying to his crassness, he does have a point. There are worse things on the internet that are getting streamed. Like people doing the wrong thing, and like I know we're on it. It's a different topic in itself, but even just the EFL's restriction on vloggers it's a heresy. It's not. Football is for the fans. It's literally nothing without them. So, and if you're going to have a blackout, especially blackout games, that 3 p.m. blackout, if you're going to have a rule like that, then why not let the people vlog? Because they're not doing it live. They're doing it usually afterwards with a bunch of editing. Do you know what I mean? So
they're showing the benefit of being a fan and going to the stadium. That's like they're selling your product for you. I did my video on the vlogging thing. I may end up doing something bigger on Article 48, the 3 p.m. ban, which is part of English lore, and I don't know if it'll ever change, but I certainly have some issues with that sort of thing.
To answer John H's question, AFL is probably more popular, but the Matildas are giving them a run for their money at this stage.
And to
When
answer
we talk
Starkey's
rugby,
message,
when we talk rugby, I think it's rugby league more than union, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. Like, so it depends where you're from. So, like, Australia is very regionalized when it comes to popular sports. Like, if you're in the East Coast, well, if you're in Melbourne or in Victoria, you're an AFL centric because there's like out of the 18 teams, I think there's 10 Victorian teams, so that's in one state, which is crazy. Whereas in the rest of the like country, Queensland and New South Wales, it's rugby league and rugby union, probably hand
Yep.
in hand. And then Perth's probably AFL, you would say, Rousey, and same with Adelaide.
Yeah, Perth's mainly AFL
Same
and
here.
cricket.
And cricket, yeah, that's another one. And Adelaide's very similar, although the pendulum seems to be shifting a bit. Like Rousey said, if it wasn't for the Matildas in the women's game, and maybe even the Socceroos to an extent in the last World Cup, you know, I don't think there would be much eyes, especially on the A League. It's a dying league. I'll be real. An Australian league that's just not got any kind of promotion to it. But in saying that, because of the national sides, it does seem to be putting a bit more of an eye on it. So I would say that football, or soccer as it's called in around the country, it probably won't get to its being the most popular sport. I don't know, Rousey, would you agree?
It's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's the same in Canada, and I think your Matilda story is a lot like where Canada was years ago, and I think where Wales is potentially going. So we might,
yeah,
I can broach that topic with you. I was curious. The question that's down below that Brendan asked, as far as any backfill on any position that you see during the January transfer window, if you were Parkey looking to add to the team, pick a spot. Who do you see as, or what do you see as a position that we need to fill for?
I'll get a fluffer.
always makes the guys a little happier to play, right?
Yeah, you got to motivate them. You know, get some release.
I can't deal with this man. I can't work with him anymore. I'm actually done. It's just I'm thinking he's being like serious. He looks serious. He's like, yeah, I've got a point here, and then he never lands it anyway. I would probably go, as silly as it sounds, you know, I think we just proved without Mullen, there was the debate of, you know, who's going to play. We had Palmer and obviously Dolby, and obviously without Fletcher as well. Maybe bringing Bickers back into the fold. Yeah, maybe that could be an option. But yeah, Fluffer's probably the primary target.
And if my mom's sitting at home watching this on the live stream on YouTube, all proud of me that things are happening, she'll be messaging me after, what is a fluffer?
I hope to God that happens.
You know what it is? It's going to be a phone call, and it's going to be like, don't you be hanging out with those Australians again.
Yeah, that's So speaking of hanging out with the Australians, do you guys have plans to get over, like a timeline, a goal, a hope?
2025, we're hoping.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap endeavor to get
expensive.
over there.
Oh, yeah, you guys got the full gamut to run.
Yeah, I think we worked it out. Flights and everything. It's about 20,000 Australian. And then
if you want to do like a comms and you want to do a proper trip, which is what we want to do. Like we don't want to go for a couple of days. We want to go for a couple of weeks. And yeah, that does seem to be the underlying factor is monetary expenses. But in the same sense, I think what's good about this community, and you can probably attest to this, Shaun, is that, you know, being remote doesn't really matter anymore. I feel like, yes, of course, I would die to go to the racecourse. It's like my dream, but I don't feel left out. I don't feel like I'm being put to the side. I feel like I'm really a part of something. And do you feel the same, Shaun?
Yeah, 100% on that. And I was joking with somebody about when I do get over. So I'm planning to go over over Easter. My kids have English passport, or UK passports. I shouldn't say English, UK passports. My wife's from South Yorkshire, Donnie, Doncaster, and I've been to a Rovers game at Keepmoat.
No way.
Watched people there. So I want to get over for Easter, and I was like, this is gonna be great for the kids, and the grandparents will do it, but it's really all me. But I was joking that I'm almost nervous because of the number of people who have offered to buy me a beer. I'm gonna need at least 3 weeks to consume it all without putting myself into a coma. because it's just it is what it is. But
Yeah, give
it
us
was
20
brought up
minutes.
here.
The Welsh people can drink, dude. The Welsh people can
Yeah.
fucking drink.
Oh,
I dare say they'd probably. I mean, Aussies are renowned for drinking, but Welsh they know how to put it down too. So,
So there's the plug. If you
yeah.
depending on who you're watching, some people are watching on my channel, some are watching on
Oh,
Two
sure.
Dudes Media. Go to the other one, hit the subscribe button, and everybody gets there together. I'm not looking to get rich off this thing, that's for sure. But I've been telling people I'm looking forward to.
I've started a tirade with the fluffer comments.
It's all it is. I wanted to talk about the FA Cup and the EFL trophy and kind of get your guys' take, because there's a split between the community. I guess there's three different options, right? There's some that say FA Cup, go for it all the way, but not the trophy. There's some that say trophy, cups, do everything you can to get there, and some that say screw all of that jazz because we don't really have a chance to win them. I mean, the trophy is not worth winning, so just focus on the league. Have you guys over your 2.5 seasons developed your take on like how do you feel when walking into those games?
I love a good fuck all cup, mate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to have it. It's
Sweet fuck all.
it's no, cup runs are really great for clubs, and they're great to watch. They give you opportunities to face people in other leagues, higher up competition. So I'm all for the cup. I think it's fantastic. The trophy is obviously that has its reasons, but it's not as
It's not what
big.
it was.
It's not what it was. No.
Yeah.
And that's probably my biggest take on that is what Rousey said. To his point, the FA Cup is, it's the magic of the cup. Go as far as you can go, but also don't put all your eggs in one basket. I think we proved that last year, even with the Sheffield game. It was great, but obviously because of it, it did affect some of our league games coming back into it. So it is something to just be mindful of. But we've got such depth this year. Like, I mean, we had it last year too, but in terms of playing cups, we do have, like, we've got Waters, Bickerstaff, we've got Hassana, we've got all these people who can fill in.
You can even put Cushion and Humphreys in, who didn't come from the junior league, and bring them up, who we never really saw. But
Exactly.
heavily, Aaron James got pulled in on the last one. So
that's right.
Just quickly, Brendan Farrell actually asked, "What about the Lee transfer?" It ain't happening.
Oh, you had to switch it. He has the Elliot Lee.
I missed that one.
Not going to happen.
So Shaun, for context, this man is a degenerate, but also he's obsessed with Elliot Lee to the point where, do you remember the game where, I can't remember what game it was, but basically Elliot Lee scored, and basically he had a raging semi going while he was celebrating, and basically it was, passed around, and basically he saved it and zoomed in, and he uses it at any point that Elliot Lee is brought up. Yeah, he brings in this, and I'm so sorry. But
we all have our shtick, right? We all have our shtick.
But we call it the Elliot Lee because if we know how there's 10 out of 10, well, we give them that little bit extra. Is called the Elliot Lee, which is the little bit more.
I like it.
So the Elliot Lee factor. So, anyways, apologies for everyone.
It's all good. I was just thinking, Fearless and Devotion did a Spaces. It probably would have been like about 4:00 in the morning for you guys, and they were talking about, and they asked the trivia question. There have been 68 home games for Wrexham since the takeover by Rob and Ryan, and asked the question, how many losses were there? And I think Starkey was on for this one. And I'll just give away the answer. 4. And 2 of them in regular time. The one to the Dons, and previous to that, a loss to Yeovil Town. And so with Yeovil being the FA Cup second round team coming forward, are you concerned about it this time? Or are we going to end up, jinxing it and saying we're not concerned at all right now?
It's hard. It's a hard one because the biggest part about this game, and we touched on it briefly off air, me and Rousey, but we think it's important not to underestimate them. They're on a serious run. I know they're in a completely different league now, but they are on a run. And this, how people talk about like giant killers, like we talk about us against Sheffield, against Coventry, being the giant killers. That's what Yeovil wants to be to us. We're giants compared to them now. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Like, we are giants. So these people are going to throw the kitchen sink at us. And I think it'd be silly for us to take it for granted and, rest players, things like that. I think we should just add it as an extra league game, essentially, in the mindset, and just play our game and do exactly what we did against Gillingham.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Rousey, did similar take?
Yeah, I actually agree with Adrian on this one. So I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, it just feels very much like the team's clicking, the team's starting to fire. Me and Adrian constantly have this debate. Like I keep saying, Adrian, back to back, baby, come on. And he's like, yeah, back to back promotions. I'm like, fuck yeah, no, back to back fucking champions. Because I get this, I see this being Stockport, Wrexham, backwards and forwards, right through to the end of the season.
Right, literally the end of the season, the very last game of the season, which could be a crap load of fun.
This will be Notts County 2.0, basically.
Yeah. And I think that what Rousey says is very true. Like, it's not. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the goal should not be champions. The goal should just be get promotion, because this is different to last year. Last year we had to get top. We had to get it. Of course, if we get a chance to be champions, of course we take it with both hands. But the goal should always be promotion.
Yeah. I'm with you. We got a simple one here from Aaron. Not simple because it was difficult actually with everybody that was there. But your man of the match today, George Evans for me. Everyone else, what did you guys think?
Lee.
Is that the standard? He could be a sub. He could be the reserve. He could be the fluffer, and it's going to be Elliot Lee.
Exactly, dude. If Elliot Lee didn't even play, he would give Elliot Lee man of the match. That's just his bias.
No, it's got to be. I mean, look, he was fantastic, and I mean, there were a lot of 8.5s, I reckon, out in the field, but Elliot Lee was just he was trouble. He was trouble, and wow.
Yeah.
What can I say? What can I say? Dude. Man of the match. My man of the match is Elliot Lee.
Nah, man. Like I love your passion around him, but yeah, it had to be Evans for me. He's literally he's the most underrated player in League Two. He's definitely he's not just underrated. He's just a champion, and he does what he can. You know what I mean? Like he's able to put out a consistent performance. I don't think I've seen him play poorly once, whereas I could probably say, as much as I love Elliot Lee and as much as I love the others, there have been poorer games or games where they weren't starring. Whereas I feel like if you go best on ground since he came in, Evans is always in that equation.
Yeah.
John said it and Aaron said mine. I went with Tozer. I also had a run in with Mendy as a consideration, and it was interesting during the watch party. Somebody actually said at the half, we haven't heard anything from Evans. And then the second half, it was all Evans all the time. So yeah, I can see Starkey's in there with Evans. Evans is solid. So anyway, it was Tozer got the vote out of the watch party. So I was curious about that one. And then up next, I mean, it's an interesting next, what is it, 7 games left before we get there? Accrington, Stanley, Harrogate, Morecambe, Harrogate, FGR, Colchester, Newport, and then we're back to recycle to Swindon. So we've kind of got 3 games at the end, which are a little bit softer. But that game against Accrington Stanley away, I don't know. Like the run keeps going, and I'm almost pessimistic. I don't know if you guys start to look like this, where you're like, there's going to be that moment where we end up being not Swindon Town, Stockport County again we just have a crap appearance. Do you guys have those concerns, and have you identified the game maybe that you guys are concerned about that's coming up on the horizon?
I think possibly Accrington Stanley is going to be a pretty easy knockover. I actually think the Accrington Stanley game will probably be very similar to what we've just seen. They're about the same place on the table. I think Accrington Stanley are 9th at the moment. I don't see them. I mean, they've had very patchy form at home. I think they've lost more at home than they have away. So I think Accrington Stanley aren't really going to bother us too much. So I'm going to be predicting my win for that. That's for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Get the fluffers out there.
Seventh, and an average attendance of 2,437 for the year. That's Accrington Stanley.
Wow.
Well, someone's OnlyFans ain't doing so good, is it?
I hear you.
Nah, it's a big one because that is. Oh, look, I'm with you. I think Rousey and I we always make the joke that like we have. He's like the positive outlook, and I might sometimes be the pessimistic outlook. And I think it's just out of fear,
Yes.
because my biggest fear is getting confident. And I think that's where it bites us on the ass, especially Stockport. I remember, especially me and Rousey, when we did our podcast that week, we were confident we would stop Stockport. We were confident we were going to walk them, and they just did us in. And it sounds silly, but I think because we've been burnt before, same thing with Halifax last year. We thought we'd stomp them, and it didn't happen. I just don't like to take any team for granted at the moment because we're in such a good position. That's the only reason. It's not because I don't believe we can do it. I reckon we can win every game, but I'm just so fearful of being that guy who says we've won it and then we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, snowboard SNJ asked a really good, actually, question we've never been asked. What are two Aussies and a Canuck walk into a bar? What do they order to drink? I can tell you now, me personally, I like Peroni for my beer and Jameson for whiskey. I will.
Right, you Shaun?
I'm going to throw you all off because this is going to weird everybody else who isn't from the center of Canada.
If you say Cosmopolitan, I'm turning this stream off.
No. Beer and clam. And what that is we drink a lager. So Clamato juice, if you ever have a Caesar, is tomato juice, but with clam broth processed. So it's not chunky, it's not thick. And it's like a Bloody Mary. Kim highlights it there. It's like a Bloody Mary, but it's got clam sauce. And you mix it in your light lager and you drink it with your beer. Some people call it a red eye. They actually have it at I'm not going to remember the name of the store. Sainsbury's in England sells Clamato juice. It's also available in Canada, obviously, and that's what I drink with my beer all the time. I thought you were repulsive, and I'm not the only one. It's a Saskatchewan, Alberta, Central Canada thing.
I thought you were talking about a different type of clam because I know there's a
not that process. Not that process.
They actually, no joke, they make beer out of vaginal yeast these days. Like, what the fuck is that shit? Like,
Rousey, you got to stop reading out your shopping list on stream. I swear to God, we are live.
So I'm gonna end up, when I go over, I'm probably gonna buy a bunch of Clamato juice at Sainsbury's and walk it over to the turf and be like, let's fire up around and see who ends up enjoying it. But it throws people, either people love it or they hate it. There's no in between.
Yeah, fair. I think the biggest thing for me is that when you said that, I was like, is he fucking with us? Like, is he just trying to be like, these Aussies, they have no idea? Like, but then you're like, dead serious. Okay, that's a
Google Clamato, and it will pop up with a nice red bottle. Red eye, Starkey knows.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna. You know what? You've inspired me. I reckon maybe next week I'll try and get it on the shopping list and see if me and Rousey can have one and send it to you.
Carrie's from Canada, and she just said it's the foulest thing you'll ever taste. I don't agree with her, but like I said, it is polarizing. It's a love or a hate. See, Bloody Caesar is the nectar of the gods, so it's not the Clamato. She just doesn't like with the beer. So, anyways, it is.
No, look, I mean, I'm a real basic bitch when it comes to alcohol. I just love a beer. Like you give me a pint of any lager. I'm all about it. I'm really about Bogue's Lager, which is a Tasmanian beer. Shout out to Cryptic, although I think he might be on the other side of town. Forgive me. But yeah, Bogue's is probably my go-to beer. And yeah, I'm a Jameson man as well, Rousey. So maybe that's what we can down a bottle of when we're on the flights eventually.
A bottle.
What will we do with that?
Sorry. Multiple bottles. We'll have one each. Yeah.
Are we talking? Yeah, I guess it always depends on the size of the bottle.
Well, my other favorite thing is stuff called Interstellar.
He's already regretting it.
Never.
It's not a drink. It's weed. It's medicinal weed.
Never, ever, ever will I regret stuff like this. This is actually probably more what my personality's like. I just end up having to hide under a veil of politeness and Canadianisms. So the Aussies may end up pulling a little bit out of it. So
Cryptic Construct was questioning where we got 20K from. That's to get both of us from either side of Australia all the way to Wrexham car
And a
rental,
comms.
beer and games and all
Yeah.
sorts. So we figured it
Like
out to be around
10,000
that
of that
time
is
of day.
just alcohol, I think. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just a
So,
load.
but you
for
guys are
10,000.
halfway. Do you guys go the like over Thailand and then over the Middle East and into Europe and over, or do you come the other way and end up in like LA and then pick up from there and head that way?
We go
Yeah, I don't
north
know.
through Asia, Dubai, and then
Yeah, you go that way.
Dubai
Okay.
over. And there is a non-stop flight that goes direct from Perth to the UK.
Okay.
But generally it's through the UAE and then up to England on most of our flights these days. But
So
I'll
you
be
could couch
honest. I'll
surf
be
if
honest. Just quickly, if we get to the UAE, even just as a stopover, I really fear for what Rousey being incarcerated the minute he steps off the plane, because like if you're going to any country that has like restriction on liquor laws and things like that, I'm kind of worried that Rousey might get us into shit.
I'm glad we put this on the podcast that the visuals won't necessarily be there for them.
Yeah.
I will say when I flew last over to England, I used skip legged and they had some amazing stopovers, not intentional ones that they planned, just happened. I went to New York and went to a baseball game at Yankee Stadium, flew to Oslo, took in some time there, made my way to England. It cost me like $320 or something stupid to get the Canadian, which I think we're on par, pretty close.
We're pretty close to each other. Yeah. Really close.
And so it was 300 from Vancouver. I mean, I spent 12 hours total in the air and got in cheapest chips on skip leg. So it's something to consider if you need the time, but if you can figure it out. Starkey asked a question here about what you guys thought about how we played on the floor today with respect to both goals and thought it was some sexy football. I'll let you guys take that one and we'll chip in if
straight up sexy football. That's the type you need to take a minute and close the door, put on some candles.
Oh Lord, that type of
football, because that type of football, that's the stuff that just gets you going and makes you want to just paint the curtains. Anyway, no, it was great.
Again, this is why we never do a live medium, I think.
It was it was good. I mean, the 53-second goal from Palmer was just absolute perfection, chaos in the box. And, whenever we put things near the box like that, it's always going to be a bit of chaos. I mean, a lot of ricocheting about, and then something's eventually going to happen. But the goal that Mendy crossed in for Toza was, and just the way we were passing it about, playing one touch, controlling the ball, not liking forward avenues. So they're pushing it back and just passing it around, holding possession. I mean, there was picture perfect football, and you can't ask any more from our boys. So we fucking love them, and they did so well. Every single player. I mean, we can't give every single player man of the match, but it was every single player was just fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it was honestly that kind of look. Just to touch on that point of that tiki-taka start. Of just being able to one touch everything pretty much to that opening goal. I mean, that was stuff of dreams. We don't really, especially in League Two, you don't get to see that as much. If you're watching La Liga or you're watching Premier League, it's quite standard. But it's amazing to see Wrexham gelling so much that they can do the one touches and can put it around.
Mm-hmm.
And Cryptic touched on it just now. Evans showed real class and composure. That's what I think makes those kind of plans work so well. And Shaun, you also touched on it when it came to that play with Mendy and Evans. It was that back and forth and being able to put the run in. If you don't have that, sometimes it can be known as, what do they call it, like hack in the box football, where they just kind of hack it straight in and nothing really comes of it, or you get a fluke goal and people don't rate it as much. Whereas the play at the start, the tiki-taka was just, it was really good.
It was interesting for me because doing the preview for this, like you always get, I do the statistical analysis, the Who Are You videos. I don't know if you've seen them, I go through, and this one, I either got it wrong about the player, but I identified Ethan Coleman. He has crazy stats as far as his his offensive and defensive stats in the midfield, he's statistically top of League Two. He's a beast. And I went, well, who's going to control this 23-year-old? And it's either the stats are all wrong, or maybe it was just he met George Evans. And so but I also noted that I think we were on the ground a lot in the back line, and we were on the ground a lot in the final third, pushing towards goal. But I think they nullified everything because it was constant long ball just over the midfield and into the soft space on the corners. And that's what I was like, that's how they've got rid of this guy, is they're just stripping every opportunity for him to get close to the ball. And that was, I think, a way to control the game. So it was on the floor on both sides, and it was gorgeous for all the reasons we talked. But when they did go to the air across the midfield, and I was like, Parkey's brilliant, and or I'm really dumb, and or both. But it seemed to work. So
well, I think the main thing I got from this game, so they were playing a different formation than Wrexham. I think they were playing the Gillies were playing a 4-1-3-2 or something. Like really strange.
4-3-2-1. Yeah. No, was that it?
So whatever it was. They were playing a different formation, which obviously exposed them a little bit in their back line, or exposed their midfield so we could play it over the top. But I think the difference came down to the 50-50s. We were just beating the players all over the field. Mm-hmm. And when you've got that, it doesn't matter what formation you fucking put out on the field. If your boys are beating the men one-on-one, then you got no hope.
I'm going to take this one just because it came up on another question that was during the spaces about Stockport being recent, unusual to see recently promoted teams to do as well. I can answer the question really quick. There were 7 teams that have been, since the National League went to 2-team promotion back 21 seasons ago, there have been 7 that have gone direct back-to-back. And it's something like 45%, I think it is, off the top of my head, that actually go promotion within the first 3 years into League Two. So we're not in rarity here. This is why there should be really 3 teams coming up, is because it's so frequent that you get into League Two and you bounce straight up to League One. That's just my take on it.
No, that's a good take.
There was another question. Sorry?
I was just saying that's a good take. Like it's like one thing that a lot of people don't know is, they think, is it rare? And like you said, it's good. It's a good stat to know that it can be done. But it's, it's not necessarily done as champions, but they've done it in promotion. So it's good to see it happen.
I'm going to jump in here, and I was actually having a think about this the other day, because last season I was a huge proponent of having 3 up. But the 1 up, 1 playoff position. When you think about this, look, if it was to be 3 up, look at last year and the previous years before that in the National League. The first 2 teams that went up, and the difference between the first 2 teams and the third team last year was very glaring. So would Chesterfield do so well if they had gone up with us as well? Possibly not. They'd be going straight back down, I reckon.
Well, they almost beat Notts in that playoff game. So,
I know they did,
but it was either edge of the coin, either side of the coin.
Yeah.
You
but when there's like 30 points almost between the two, it's like you got to ask the question, like, what are the standard coming up into the Football League? And yes, I think 3 up, 3 down, it should be good, but I try and see it from the other point of view as well. How good is that third team coming up, really? Like, would they just come up, waste a spot, and go straight back down? You don't know. I know this year, had it happened this year, it would be a completely different ballpark, because I think Chesterfield and sides like that would really struggle in this league. So that's just my little 2 cents.
Again, I think that there's just... It's frustrating in one sense, because I think that League Two protects some crappy teams from falling into the National League probably when they deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Do I think that you're right, Rousey? I think that the inverse coming up, you can't have it be too much of a slippery slope, turning around and going back down. But it's also frustrating to me to sit there, some of the teams at the bottom of the table, and go, you should have fallen out 3, 4, 5 years ago, but you're still just eking in existence in the EFL. And it's sort of, to me, that's a little bit unfortunate.
Well, you look at like Sheffield United, they so the Championship do something similar. where they have 3 up, 3 down to the Premier League.
Mhm.
Sheffield United have gone up. Where are they sitting now? Fucking bottom, where they belong.
Mm. I think, yeah, I mean that's a different circumstance because they want people to achieve the Premier League. They want people to, because it keeps it interesting at the bottom. If you have the same shit teams at the bottom with a lower system, it's a little different because of the telecast rights. Because that's their biggest factor is they need an entertainment at the bottom of the pyramid, and if they don't, then they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. It's why the A-League in Australia is not doing well, is because there is no promotion. And I know the MLS is actually looking into doing promotion relegation because of the fact that it loses interest towards the bottom of the table, which is crazy, isn't it?
It's never going to happen in North America. I mean, you've got too many people investing too much money to end up going there. The people who are screaming for it are those that own USL teams or maybe CPL teams.
Yeah.
And they're desperately trying to get, I bought my squad for $200,000, and so now I get a chance to be able to go up against Messi. Like, yeah, I want Pro Rel for obviously reasons, but it's just not something that we do here. So I can't see it happening anytime here.
No.
We got Dale with can't wait to play the MK Dons again. I'm with you there, but I also don't want to promise and be excited too much about things because they don't.
Oh, we'll fucking kill him. We will kill him. We don't have.
You're a brave soul. I like to be even keeled on the.
We don't
have
as much as I.
We don't have
Shaun,
a
you and I are
granddad
kindred
involved,
spirits.
right? We got fucking mighty Arthur Okonkwo at the moment. I love Foster, but he was a granddad, and clearly he got to his time and had made a stark admission and said, "No, I don't think I'm capable of competing in this league," which was great. And then obviously with Okonkwo coming in, MK Dons, and especially the way they've been going recently, they're getting fucking stomped.
I just know from my Stockport County video, which was brilliant. The one thing that happened that was positive out of that 5-0 loss was my page got flooded with Stockport County. I don't know who was passing me around their socials, but I was well used. And I got a lot of information was like the views. And so that's who I want back more than the MK Dons. I'm looking forward to the last game of the year and hopefully it meaning something to take them on. And see where that goes. Adrian, do you have a makeup game or a one that you've circled on the calendar? You're like, yeah, give me that.
Yeah, I mean, Stockport at home is probably the big one. Like it's like you just want to prove that was just a slip up. It wasn't anything to read into, but also it was a wake up call. So yeah, pretty good. And I'm hoping. What's the other one we've got? I actually want to play Barrow again. Do you remember when we drew against them and we were like, we dominated in that first half, 1-0 up, Lee scored. We were like, yeah, game on. And then we just got played.
Swindon Town for the same reason for me.
Yeah.
Swindon Town for the exact same reason.
Yep. It was just that kind of play, right? Same style. It was, we played well enough, but not for the full 90.
We are a different team though, and we are clicking more. We have come together more, and I just honestly think that it'll be a completely different game. Both for Stockport will be closer. I think as Stockport, like I said, it's going to be going to be Wrexham and Stockport will be just like Knots and us last year. So it could come down to that game. We'll see what happens. But I like Starkey's question there. Would you guys?
We get to spend Robin Ryan's money here, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not.
Absolutely. I'd go all out for him because that's your keeper for the future. He can take you to League One. He can take you to Championship and possibly even Premier League. So, I mean, he was playing for a Premier League club. So, I would absolutely spend the money on him with a view to the future. Sign him up for 2 or 3 years. Get him in. Don't sign Luke Armstrong. We don't need him. Fletcher will be coming back.
Agreed.
Luke Armstrong has had a very bang average season at the moment.
And it's probably his own doing, to be real. He's probably quite deflated out of the whole situation. And, he probably hates fax machines. And he's just like, he just probably just sees one at like, your local, office supply shop and just kicks it in.
I wouldn't be surprised seeing a transfer fee of around, realistically, maybe 700,000 or 800,000.
He'd be on a free. Wouldn't he? His contract's up at the end of the year, and
Correct.
I've heard
He's
that
a free.
Arsenal's not looking
yeah.
to re-sign him.
He's
So
a
it's
free.
just going to be about stepping up to pay the money on a contract, which is
we
still
can
going
do
to be a healthy.
we can do it though,
But
because if we don't sign Luke Armstrong, which we already think about it, Steve Fletcher basically saved us $500,000. So yes, the fact and Kim, the fax machine is just the joke that Wrexham, when they filed for Luke Armstrong's transfer fee, they did it via the fax machine and it didn't work, and that's why it didn't go through. But that's just a lame joke on my part. But in terms of Luke Armstrong's money, put all of that, funnel it to a Okonkwo, funnel all of that funds, and the players that we're probably going to let go at the end of the year too. The people who haven't been re-signed to that EFL list. People like, I hate to say it, but like Waters, players of that caliber that may free up a lot of salary cap.
Yeah, the reason I highlighted this one from Hananiah, I'm going to say Hyper Galaxy, about the money was to ask this question more related to the F1. What did you guys have any thoughts when Rob and Ryan jumped in on Alpine of F1 and what that may mean and what their background was? And
yeah, we had a little bit of a discussion about it, and I had a theory that it was to they were doing it almost like a networking type thing to gain more money coming through them to go back
100%.
into the club.
You guys are brilliant.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they see 10, 15 years down the road as to where they're potentially going to go with this, not just with their investment, with the ability to climb up the ladder, but if we end up reaching the Premier League, you've got to have some money, you got to have some backers, you got to have some people behind you. And so why else would you get involved in F1? So to me, and that's what insane politics and mad corruption, sure.
Yeah.
But there's networking there and the potential to bring in some people. And I think they showed a level of brilliance that I was like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, God, they are so much smarter. This is why I'm just a stupid lawyer. And they are out doing all sorts of fun things with their money.
F1, I mean, I kind of agree. Like I've sort of backed off watching F1 a little bit now. I mean, you need to bring back the days of Ayrton Senna really for it to go back to its purest form. But now, yeah, it's all about the money. It's all about, how much money you can put into a car and into a team, and whose dick you're sucking, all that sort of shit. You gotta be prepared to bend over the desk and take one without lube. You got to do whatever it takes with F1, and it's lost its feel, it's lost its magic.
But my point, like you are raising a very good point, which is that yes, it's changed. It is not what it was, and that is what I think I like about it, because the difference between, I think, remember when it happened, you saw a lot of chatter from other clubs saying, oh, look, Rob and Ryan are getting bored. They're getting bored of Wrexham. They're going to Alpine. People like Rousey, myself, and obviously yourself too, Shaun, we all knew what it was for. It is to basically say, hi, I'm Rob, I'm Ryan, I own Wrexham. Did you just see us go up another league? We're almost in the Premier League. Do you want to get in on the ground floor? And I don't know if you guys have looked at the list of people in the consortium that owns Alpine.
I have not.
It is so many fucking huge billionaire players, and they're not. And look, you know how people always go oil money, Arabic oil money, things like that. That's where football goes goes to die. That's not really part of. Yes, it's part of F1, but it's not part of that specific consortium. They all have their hands in like technology and like really big firms. So I'm pretty excited to see. Yeah. This is the day that Shaun. Yeah.
I'm not happening. We're fine.
I'm so sorry.
One topic that we didn't get to address, and obviously they're playing their cup game tomorrow, and I'm going to pronounce it in Wales and get it wrong. I was told to pretend I have spit in my mouth when I say Letlano. I'm not going to get it right, so I shouldn't even bother. But they've got their cup match tomorrow. Talking about women's football just for a second, I wanted to know your thoughts. With you guys had the World Cup down there with the women, obviously in front of massive stadium fans, soccer blowing up and getting exposure. Canada had it might have been 8 years ago now when we had it.
Yeah.
And we kind of had our golden era with Sinclair now retiring. and Canada's in the transition of, can we still hang on to the rope without the all-time leading goal scorer internationally, men or women? But I wanted to chat with you more. The question is, with the growth of football in Australia, what did you attribute it to, or can you attribute to anything? And do you see a pathway for Wales to get up ahead of being 41st best in
I can answer this one quite clearly with one player, Sam Kerr. Now, when you're fielding one of the best female strikers in the world, and the amount of following and backing and sponsors that she brings, she brought a lot of eyes to it. There was also a documentary as well on Disney Plus called The Matildas. It's really, really worth a watch. But she is simply just, she's a dream to watch. She is an absolute dream to watch. And you know, when you've got players like that, and some other players that are also playing in the Premier League system in England, with Mackenzie and Cross and Viney and all those girls, so they've become this transcendent thing, and they've really taken over. Like every World Cup comes out, the Aussies will come out and force them back to the World Cup, but it was just different with the Matildas, and I think a lot of it is down to the fact that we have the best female striker in the competition in the world, and we got behind that, and we got behind the story, and it just took off. I mean, I touched on it before. I don't know if I touched on it in the pod, but I said to Adrian, I tried to get my tickets for my mum and myself to go see the Matildas play the Philippines at Optus Stadium. That's a 65,000 seat stadium. Sold out in a day. Could not get a ticket in a day. 65,000, and for a women's game, which is just nuts. And I love it. I fucking love it. The women's game is amazing. It's quick. It's brutal. I love watching women play in, you know, the Wrexham Reds. I love watching them play, and I love watching the Matildas play. That's just, those girls really need to be given some kudos, and you know, maybe they need some, I don't know. They're just fucking.
I was going to say, don't go there. I saw the word. I was like, not while we're talking women's football.
You probably, if we were talking that, we should just turn him off for this portion, I think. But the best part is look, actually, Crypto Construct made a very good point. Successful team. Kerr may be a draw card for some attendance, for sure, but it was the successful team that brought it. Sam Kerr didn't even play for the first 4 games of the World Cup because of injury, and there was still sellouts, still part of it. And it wasn't about, you know, of course, everyone wants to see Sam Kerr play, everyone wants to see her score, but it was the, you know, like you said, Mackenzie Arnolds of the world, Cooney Cross, the people.
I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it's because Kerr is a West Aussie. She got a hell of a lot more media attention over here because she's a West Aussie. So that's probably why. I mean, I know her dad, Roger. Great family, great bunch. I mean, maybe Daniel Kerr is a little bit weird, but anyway.
Moving on.
Moving on.
So, I mean, the question that I have, do you guys have a domestic league for your women's competition down? Like you have the A League for the men,
the W League
for the women as well.
Yeah, the W League.
Because I mean, Canada doesn't. Our girls tend to just run down to the US and play their league down there. Like Sinclair, for her entire time, would play for the Portland Thorns down in their league. But I don't know what your thoughts. I'm almost as excited more about, you know, the potential European competition for the women's team and them getting their opportunity and all that sort of stuff. But the influence that Wrexham is going to have on the Welsh national team, I do not have the same interest in the men's. Like the Welsh national team, it's odd. I have zero interest. Mullen playing for Wales, I was like, I don't care, don't want. That's just me being an international fan. But the women's team, it matters to me, and I don't know why, but I was curious if you guys had a take on the women's game and where they're at and how you think that may influence the national team at all.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's a big one because it's not, the takeover didn't just affect one side. It affects the entire organization. And that's what you've really touched on, is if they can get to Europe, they'll be I know that Wrexham men's team back in the day have played in like some form of European competition, but this would be the first modern day Wrexham team to do that. And I'm quite excited for that, exactly the same way you are, which is then you're going to have spotlights on Lily Jones. You're going to have spotlights on, obviously you can always talk about Rosie Hughes, but it is those kinds of people that will get the spotlight on them, and all of a sudden they'll be playing for the Welsh national team. And like you said, I have no interest in the Wales men's team. I'm all about the Socceroos. I don't really care about, that. But the minute I hear that there's going to be a potential for these girls to play at the highest level in not only Europe, but then for their country, I'll watch the hell out of that. I'll stay up exactly the same as if we were watching Wrexham for that same reason. That's what the takeover was about. It was not about getting the men to be, sustainable. It was to make the club sustainable and get more eyes on them. And that's what the women's game will do.
Yeah, for sure. I've noticed the hour mark ticked over, and I wasn't even paying attention to the damn thing. And I said, I'm going to try my best to control this under an hour. I don't know. Do you guys have anything on your page that you guys wanted to push, talk about the projects that you're working on that you think anyone listening to this might be interested in?
Well, yeah, I mean, we started a review thing mainly on YouTube, so we do focus a bit more on YouTube these days. But we're doing reviews, and we've reviewed every episode of Welcome to Wrexham to start. But we're starting to see that the feedback in the people, they like watching what we do with those reviews. So we might be expanding that into things like the Beckham series on Netflix, or what was the other one? The Sunderland Till I Die, or might
just
get
to
in
get a
and
football
review some of
perspective.
those.
Yeah, that's something to look out for sure. We're doing that, and the podcast itself. Just check us out if you like it. It's on any type of podcast medium you can think of, Apple, Spotify, all of that jazz. And if you like it, let us know, and tweet us at Two Beards Media, or what are we now? Two Beards Wrexham. Sorry, at Two Beards Wrexham.
At Two Beards Wrexham. So for me, just so anybody that's paying attention, I run the watch parties whenever they're on, or find a substitute if I can't make it. It's continuing to grow. Had a little bit of a setback here with the Gillingham one, which I talked to Rousey beforehand as to maybe there was a reason behind that, but it was it's still growing. 40 countries there. You guys are more than welcome to come and join the live chat, and whether you throw in a couple of banters, talking some humor. It's sort of it's a fun little community that we've got going on. So doing that, and then major projects doing it's the regulation stuff. People like it when I do the boring, like the dive into the cop and all that sort of stuff. So I guess I'm gonna have to suck it up and do it, because that's where I get my views. But depending on who you're watching this from, I see some are over on
pads, mate. Just wear good knee pads. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I hear you. I got it. Two Beards Media. Some of you are watching on mine. Make sure you go over and cross-subscribe to both. Any creator for Wrexham.
We're never getting allowed back.
Brings it back. I'm looking forward to hearing what this sounds like back on the podcast, because there is going to be laughter and jokes and guffaws and comments, and they're going to be wondering what the heck was on the screen in YouTube. So I don't know. Any other questions before we part?
John H. Mr. In Between. Watch Mr. In Between if you want to see it. I think it's I'm not sure what streaming platforms it's on, but Mr. In Between is fantastic. Love that show.
And I missed that question. So that was a request for a documentary?
John H. Give me some Aussie TV shows. If you must watch an Aussie TV show, watch Mr. In Between. We're pod whores. Yeah,
put it out
it's
there.
About time we get passed around like the slut we are, we get on our knees.
It's going to sound horrible, but I mean, this is just part of it, is you just end up sharing, and they come on me, I go on them.
They come on you.
I'm going to swap with others. And that's just what the podcast community does.
Exactly. It's all about sharing the love. And look, I'll write a formal apology at the end of this, Shaun, for my colleague here. I'll make sure we get you that monetization if you lose any remuneration. All right.
Yeah, well, you guys, I'm really gonna have to push the limits on where I'm gonna be. We need to get like 100,000 times. But anyway, hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna be on for the watch party, trying to get the other videos out. Two Beards, Adrian Rousey, thank you so much for staying in. I had a lot of fun. I needed this, and I appreciate you guys joining in the morning. I'm almost afraid to let the comments roll and have any parting shot, so I think I'm just gonna end up saying that was awesome. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Shaun. Really
Shaun.
appreciate it. You having us on, man. Thank
Okay.
you.
Take care, guys.
Up the town.
Yeah. And we're clear.